right here.
It's on now.
Let me see me right here.
Let's see. Hey. Okay.
Okay. It's looking better.
Okay, we are here.
Getting all set up real quick. As you can see, the topic is real heavy.
Yes.
It's real heavy. You know, there may be some outpouring of emotions. You know, it's okay to cry.
Yes.
It's okay to release emotions when talking about traumatic experiences.
Yes.
If you need to take some time to pause, it's okay to do so. Just don't allow those emotions to stop you from getting to that healing.
Yes.
And going through that healing process. So, as you can see, we have the causes of trauma, not all of them, just some of the main ones.
Right.
We have the different types of trauma. And we also have some impacts that trauma can cause.
Yes, we do.
So not only are we going to get into that, we're going to share our own personal childhood experiences.
Absolutely. And maybe even some adulthood experiences as well.
And how it impacted our adulthood decisions and where we're at now.
Yes, absolutely.
So they definitely all tie together. So let's go ahead and share some of the causes of trauma.
Okay. So some of the causes of trauma, as you can see on our wonderful board, shout out to my husband for this. This is wonderful. Abuse, neglect, violence, loss of a loved one or separation, poverty, and discrimination.
All right. Thank you for reading that.
You're welcome.
Let's get into the different types of trauma.
All right. So the different types of trauma, we have humiliation trauma, rejection trauma, abandonment trauma, betrayal trauma.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Let's talk about some of the different impacts that trauma can have.
So some of the impacts that we have are flashbacks, nightmares, avoidance, anxiety, depression, anger, trust issues, self-destruct, risky behaviors, withdrawal, problems forming relationships. So quite a few.
So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get started and share some of my childhood experiences, that I can remember and that are appropriate to be shared. So, I would say it starts off when I was about 4 or 3. Parents split up. Now keep in mind, love my parents, love both of my parents, but to be honest, when it comes to my mother, we do not have a speaking relationship. Haven't spoken about maybe a year or so. I've tried to reach out. We can speak. It's just when we do, it's kind of like pulling teeth. It almost seems like bothering her at times. Definitely don't want to be a bother.
Mm-hmm.
But always open to, that bridge of communication and working on that whenever we get to that point.
Yes.
When it comes to my father, we just spoke Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to discredit my beliefs and said that I'm spreading lies. And the worst part about it is he doesn't even know my beliefs. Never took the time to really talk to me about them. So that's where we're at now. But let's take it back.
Take it back.
To what I can remember. So, parents split up. I was around 3 or 4. According to my father, as I was born, throughout that time, he was dealing with another female. Keep that in mind. So for the most part, I was raised with my mother. So let's say from 4 to 10, I'm with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Usual childhood, nothing really out of the norm that I can remember, except for the fact she was very angry. It almost seemed like she was angry every day. Just the slightest thing can get her from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
So I tried to stay out the way as much as possible. I can actually remember her having more road rage incidents than I can remember her actually telling me she loved me. But she did show her love in many different ways. So we never really gained that speaking relationship. As I was living with her, she did get into some legal issues. So during that time, I had to stay with other family members. Shout out to Nana, aunties and uncles, cousins. Shout out to all them. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, sometimes that is very true.
Yes.
So as my mother was, going through her legal issues, I made a mistake of telling a friend at school that my mom was locked up. And guess what that friend did?
What happened?
This friend made fun of me.
Oh no.
He laughed. He called my mother some names. So if you can see that humiliation trauma, that definitely kicked in at that time. And ever since that moment, I've been very secretive, very to myself. Talking to me, trying to get information can be like pulling teeth. And to be honest, I was very socially awkward. I had trouble building relationships as well as keeping relationships. So we go through that time. I turned 10. So this is when I go to visit my dad. So my dad, he's in Seattle. He's in Seattle at this time. I go visit him for the summer. Everything was pretty cool for the most part. That I can remember, playing sports, hanging out, all those good things. He was a little strict. But, that makes sense. So I go back to my mom's. And these are about middle school years. So around this time, growing up in poverty, growing up in the inner city in San Diego, something many people don't know. It is gang infested. If you're growing up in the inner city, there's a good chance you are growing up within a section of a gang. So it's all around us. Family members are part of gangs. On top of that, also being introduced to some bad influences. Family members around this time. That's filling my head with illegal ways to make money. Now I'm not acting on these things, but these things were put into my subconscious.
Right.
So middle school, everything pretty much cool for the most part. Mom's went out a lot. She loved the party, loved the club. So on the weekends, I'm at home with my siblings. A lot of times cousins would come over. We'd have a good time. Everything was cool. But I was still kind of yearning for that relationship.
Yeah.
So I go to see my father. I was about 9th grade. I was supposed to go just for the summer. But I was having such a good time, I decided to stay for the full year. For the full year to get the full experience.
Right.
And this is when I realized my father was dealing with some issues. So like I said, my mom, she was a disciplinarian. When I did something, she handled it. She took care of it.
Right.
Properly. Now my father, there didn't have to be any issues that would happen, and he would still come and handle it. Take care of it. And by it, I mean me. So he was taking care of me for reasons I didn't know. Now, of course, sometimes I did give him reasons, and he definitely took full advantage. But for a lot of times, I didn't know why I was even dealing with some of the things that was going on. So then I run away from my father's custody, run to the airport, call my grandma, Nana, to get me a flight back to Cali so I could live back with my mom, finish high school, and things of that nature. And I was the kind of person, like, when I went back between parents, it's like when I was with one, I wouldn't really think about the other one.
I see.
And I was with, and it would kind of happen like that. But as I was going between both, I never established a close relationship with either one.
Right.
And that was something that impacted me a lot growing up. You know, it was very hard to make friends and relationships and stuff like that. I remember people trying to talk to me at school, you know, trying to make friends. Someone tried to talk to me. I didn't know how to speak. Like, I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't know how to open up. I didn't know how to do some of these basic things. So it took me like well into my later teens and adulthood to actually learn some of those basic skills.
Yeah.
You know, for sure. And once I finished high school, you know, I did good in school. You know, I did good in school for the most part. Didn't really get in trouble. You know, I finished. But after that, I definitely took a turn for the worse. Started making bad decisions, self-destructing decisions, you know, dealing with the things that I didn't even know that I was dealing with. You know, I never talked to anyone about these things. I don't remember really being asked like how I felt many times. So,
Right.
you know, just suppressing a lot of it and holding on to it had way more impact than I ever would have known.
Yes.
And that's where I'm at now, and that's where we met. So she didn't know all of this extra baggage that came, and if she would have asked me, I wouldn't have thought to tell her, because half of those things I don't typically think about
Right.
on a day-to-day basis. And you're like, what's wrong with me? I'm not going to think like, yo, when I was 10, you know, this thing happened, and, you know, things of that nature. But I do think about a lot of these things from time to time.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and share some of your experiences.
Well, first of all, let's thank hubby for sharing his experience and being transparent, because that was a lot of heavy information. So thank you for being so open and sharing your story with us. So my story, I will say that, what do I want to talk about? I feel like I've dealt with a lot of childhood trauma as well. Definitely with parents, I felt like they would argue a lot. And that wasn't very healthy. And I personally wanted to get away from it. You know, I didn't like seeing them argue. It really hurt me. And I didn't like getting yelled at. I feel like I got yelled at a lot. And so seeing them argue, me being yelled at, and me feeling like I'm not good enough, it caused a very rebellious spirit within me. So we have that. And then also I want you all to know, because my husband touched on this too, and I thought about it, and it was humiliation. And so when I was younger, I want to say after the 6th grade, like 6th grade, I felt like I was popping, like everything was cool. And then once I got into middle school, that's when things just started changing, like drastically for me. You know, the stuff going on with my parents, and then me personally. Okay, so I go into middle school, and I start getting made fun of, okay, like every single day. And it was so crazy because like I can laugh at it now, but like back then, literally, like I would feel so bad. And so I'm like, okay, my home life, it's like, it's not the worst, but it's not the best either. Because I'm getting yelled at all the time. I'm not doing well in school. They're arguing. Now I'm going to school. People are bullying me. People are making fun of my beautiful forehead. Okay. Every day they would make fun of my forehead. And so I felt really sad. You know, I felt humiliated. You know, I would go to school. People would make fun of me. Your forehead's too big. Your backpack's too big. Like everything was just like, there was always something wrong with me. And so that created me feeling like, okay, I have to be cool. So I have to be cool. So what do I need to do to be cool? And so I would look at, you know, what music, people on TV, the music that I'm listening to, music videos, the cool people at school, seeing what they were doing. And to me, I associated coolness with being bad, like doing the wrong things. Like, I'm like, okay, so since I'm not cool, I need to do the bad things. Okay, they're smoking, so I need to go smoke. They're dressing cool, so I need to dress cool, you know? And so I didn't feel good enough. That was a big part. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel wanted where I was at home. And so I ran away. I ran away so many times growing up. I think I don't even remember how many times I ran away. But I was always running away from family. I was always running away from problems. I was always just running away and trying to be cool. You know, that was always the goal. I had to be cool. I wasn't good enough the way I was. My forehead wasn't wasn't the best, you know, my hair wasn't the best, like my eyebrows, everything was just like, I'm not good enough, literally. And it's funny because I watched we watched the movie Inside Out, and they talked about how you're not good enough and how that stays with you.
Right.
And so now you're bringing that into adulthood, and now I'm bringing it into my relationship with my husband, that I am not good enough. You know, I just have this trait, and it's like, okay, I gotta be cool some way, somehow, because of what happened in middle school. So, yeah.
So, her experiences come together with my experiences, and you know, the trauma doesn't disappear. You know,
it doesn't. I feel like it comes out even more so, first of all, when you acknowledge it, because I don't think that we acknowledge it sometimes. But once you do acknowledge it, it's like, oh wow, like there's a lot of stuff that I'm holding on to from when I was a child. And we may have thought that we let go of those things, or that it wasn't even a problem, but now we're older, and now a situation arises in our relationships, or, you know, in our relationship or the relationships around us, and we're wondering, why are we responding this way?
Yes, very true, very true. Digital love journey said the same thing. Middle school, trying to fit in.
Right.
You know, me as well, trying to fit in. You know, with the gang bangers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the hustlers, with all that was around me in my area. You know, just trying to fit in, and I didn't have that support system at home to make me feel like I am enough. I was enough. So
right.
You try to find that. You know, try to find it somewhere else.
Somewhere else. In the wrong things. Well, I mean, everyone's story is different, but like for us personally, it wasn't in the best things, you know.
Now, most of us, I could probably say all of us, go through traumatic experiences.
Absolutely.
A lot of us can talk about these things once we're far removed from it, yes, or once we feel like we're healed from it. But there is a lot of power in being able to talk to things that you're currently dealing with.
Absolutely.
And that you're currently going through, growing through. And I feel like it can be very impactful for others.
Yes.
You know, we always talk about just what we've healed from and act like we're not dealing with anything.
Right.
That could be very misleading at times.
Yeah.
So it's very good to just keep a remembrance, you know, that we're still dealing with something, although we are still, you know, overcoming and, you know, healing from things as well.
Absolutely. And Digital Love Journey says same. I tried fitting in my middle school years. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Why I read it again. Sorry. But no, it's true. I feel like a lot of us, like you said, we all deal with traumatic experiences, and they help us, or not help us. Well, they can help us too if we acknowledge them. But they travel with us as we become older.
They can help if you acknowledge them.
Yes.
And, you know, go through the steps of healing, yes, from those experiences. So when it happens again, you may know how to go through it, grow through it, mm-hmm, deal with it. And when you see it, you know, you'll know what it is.
Yes.
So you definitely want to have a support team, people that you can talk to, be open with. And sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes that's not a family member.
Right.
Sometimes that's not a friend. Sometimes that may be a professional in whatever field you feel most comfortable.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's important to do self-care as well. You know, take care of yourself. Take care of your mental state. You know, if something comes up in your life that triggers you, or certain things from your past just keep coming up to your memory, that's making you feel some kind of way, that's keeping you from going to sleep or keeping you from having healthy relationships, we got to address it. Mm-hmm, you know, mm-hmm, it seems easier to ignore it, but ignoring it doesn't fix the problem.
Right. Even, you know what, now that you're talking about it and how these traumas carry on as we become older, there was a situation that happened yesterday that made me really self-reflect. You know, I had to take some time and say, like, why do I keep focusing on a certain, you know, event that happened, and it keeps replaying over and over in my head. And I think it's on our board somewhere here. Inability to stop thinking about an event. So something happened, there was a solution already, and I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about the worst predicament from that situation. And it's like, that is rooted from something, something that we grew up learning from around us, or maybe we've always dealt that way and we've never fixed it as an adult. But as an adult, I'm happy that I can acknowledge it and that I'm able to spend that time with myself, and I'm able to say, okay, well, let me try to get in a more positive mindset. And that's why I'm really big on affirmations, as a lot of you know, because of the negative thoughts that I've had majority of my life and how they still creep up to this day. So there's ways to overcome it, but we do have to acknowledge it. And it is a process, sometimes it's not going to go away overnight. Sometimes we do need consistent therapy, affirmation. Sometimes we do need to speak to somebody that we trust. I mean, there's so many different things, that can help us heal from our traumatic experiences.
Very true. Very true. For me, being able to speak to my wife about my experiences is very therapeutic. I don't trust people. I have issues trusting people, building trust. So I don't want to just talk to anyone. I want to talk to someone who genuinely cares, who I know cares. And, you don't even have to give me the answers, just a listening ear, is much needed at times.
Yes. And I'm thankful for my husband. I can talk to him about anything, which I'm so grateful for. So it is important to have someone that you can trust in, that sacred, safe place that you can be open and honest with.
And if you don't have a person, there's always the Lord.
Yes.
You can always speak to the Lord about what you're going through, what you're dealing with. And of course, we know that He knows, but expressing it does something for us.
Yes.
Speaking on it does something for us.
Yes.
Breaks things. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I'm thankful that God is here. And in a way, I know traumatic experiences they're pretty damaging. Like they get embedded into us, but I do feel like there is a blessing in the traumatic experiences that we go through, because it does help us grow moving forward. And even as an adult, we can get traumatic experiences as well. I think about traumatic experiences when we were at church and how that really damaged me, and it really made me have to heal and find ways to heal, like my husband said, self-love, self-care. But I wasn't doing that before church, and so it's interesting how these traumatic experiences can lead us to become better as well, even though it was so toxic and it was so hurtful and it was so damaging. But it gets us to a place to say, okay, I need to heal from that. What am I going to do to heal? Am I going to keep dreading over the same thing, or am I going to find new ways to overcome this? So I do feel like traumatic experiences, they're bad, but they also have a blessing as well.
As she said, it's all in perspective. Most people don't look at them as a good thing, but it definitely can bless our lives, depending how we handle it and go about it. So those are our thoughts and some of our experiences with trauma. And of course, as she said, childhood experiences as well. But don't ignore the fact that a lot of, childhood things go into our adulthood.
Yes.
And it's not, a lot of issues aren't just starting from adulthood. It's childhood issues going into our adulthood.
Absolutely.
So let's keep that in mind.
Yes.
Enjoy that healing drama. Enjoy that healing process.
Yes.
Healing journey.
Yes.
But we out of here.
All right, you guys. Bye.
3G giving God glory. God is not a church.
See you later.
And we out.
Let us know what your traumatic experiences are. Bye. Thank you for tuning in. See you later.
Oh man, we messed up.
What? Really?